In this video we'll be going over the continuation of the C# video tutorials, csharp.net. So for this lab, it's a lab, so we'll be talking about a few things. So this is to practice inheritance to start. So I think we discussed some of these classes in the notes already. So pretty much you're going to need this class. It's in the csharp.net playlist on my channel. So I talk about everything that we discussed, or that's here at least. So you can watch that if you're interested in this class. So yeah, I would do that to understand how everything's being set up. Pretty much we just have some backing fields here. Constructor. Parameterless sets up the strings to an empty string. Underscore mileage and price set to 0. Then we have the make property, model property, mileage property, and price property. So I talk about everything and I explain all the concepts if you're interested in that. It's in the playlist. csharp.net. And you're going to need the car class. So it's going to inherit from automobile. You're going to have this backing field underscore doors, so you're going to set up the constructor, doors points to 0. Set up the backing field for doors. So that's pretty much it. Another thing you're going to need is this other form, which is just going to be your form 1 class. You can, so you can change it to namespace. Sorry, not namespace. You can change form 1 to main form. .cs if you want. I talk about how to change the name. In Rider you can refactor it. I also talked about the steps to do it in Visual Studio, so it's almost the same thing, it's a little different. Okay, so after that you're going to have to set up this form, which I just did in the drag and drop because it would take too long to code this out. We'll code the event handlers for it, but the layout we just kind of place it on. So let me get the names for the controls. So actually, okay, so let's just let's just do that then since we're here. So it's make text box at the top. The size is set to a bigger size, I think. Something. It's the one before 36, so I just click the size property, or the font property, change the size to the 4th one from the start, or from the end. So that's the first text box. So there's 5 text boxes here, 5 labels, and 1 button. So if it's going to be make text box, then we're going to have a label that's going to say make label. And that's going to have the same pattern all the way down. So this is model text box. And we'll have model label down there. This one's going to be mileage text box. Then we'll have mileage label down there as well. Here we'll have price text box, and then we'll have price label down here. And we'll have doors text box here, and then doors label down there, and then this button is create object button. Exit button I skip because we usually do it quite often. Quite often we do it, so I'm just going to skip that. Okay, so now going back to the theories that I might have not 100% explained properly in the notes. I may have confused some people. So if you're watching the whole series, let me just go back to something here. Okay, so because the car class is derived from the automobile class, so let's go back here for a sec. Wherever did that disappear? Okay, so we have the car class here. So because the car class is derived from the automobile class, the car class inherits all the automobile class's members except its constructor. So that's going to be the fields, backing fields, methods, and properties, and event handlers, but not the constructor. So just be careful with that. That will be a test question as well if you're taking that in university. if you're learning C# in high school, that'd be cool if you are. Wasn't in my program, but if you are, same thing. You'll probably get tested on that. So here we have, okay, so we have, sorry. So we'll just, basically I'll just say that again, because the car class is derived from the automobile class. The car class inherits all the automobile class's members, except its constructor. So the car class is not going to inherit the automobile class's constructor. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen here. So the purpose of the base class's constructor is to create an instance of the base class, so it makes sense that the derived class does not inherit the base class's constructor. Okay, so although the derived class, which is this one, the car class, and the base class is the automobile class, the symbol here, colon, means inherits from. So the car class inherits from the automobile class, or the car class is an automobile. So although the derived class inherits the base class's private members, it can not directly access them. So only members in the base class can directly access the base class's private members. So although, one more time, so just to explain. Although the derived class inherits the base class's private members, so basically the car class in this example, the car class inherits the base classes. So let's go to the base class. So the base class is here. Excuse me. So we have the car class that inherits from the base class. So the base class is the automobile class. So because the car class is derived from the automobile class, the car class inherits all of the automobiles. Actually, sorry, wrong spot. So although the derived class inherits the base class's private members, so the car class is going to inherit these private members. Except its constructors. So although the derived class inherits the base class's private members, so these private members, the car is going to inherit these private members, it cannot directly access them. So the rule about encapsulation is still intact here, because you can't just go car dot underscore make points to something. It won't let you access them. So only methods in the base class can directly access. So only methods in the base class can access the base class's private members. Okay, so the car class, I just had just one thing to check. So you can just set up the classes while you're waiting or something. Just gonna check about a keyword here. Okay, one sec here. Okay, so I was just checking about the the protected access modifier. So you can have a I didn't see it in the option in the fields, but I thought it was correct. So I think you could just go protected. No errors. Okay. So automobile protected int. Now let's go here and just go, for example, val. There we go. Points to 2. Does that work? It does. Do I have to say automobile dot val points to 2? Doesn't like that, okay. So you can do this. We're in the car class. You don't have to do that. Automobile. You don't have to reference it. Nothing's coming up, and then telesense dot val points to. That's not working. But if I just go, you can just access them. So since it's protected in this case, I'm not going to be able to remember that I did this in the title of my video. Okay, hopefully we discuss it later on. I didn't see it in the docs, but you can use it. Also static. You know what? I'm going to try to remember to make a video on this. I'm just going to make a note right here on my screen. One sec here. Where is my file that I was working on? Let me put it in the... Where was that? Okay, I'm going to have to open Rider on my other computer to remember to do that. So while that's happening, I'm just going to open it. So pretty much you can use the protected access modifier that can be used to define a member field method or property. So you can also use it for, you can use it protected for methods, properties, any class member basically, field method property event handler. Pretty much an event handler is a method. So as accessible within the class itself and its derived classes. So the protected modifier allows inherited classes to access the member, but restricts access from outside the class hierarchy. So that's the same definition I learned in Java. It should be the exact same thing. Okay, so that's great. So it's pretty simple. Whatever you want to secure from other classes that aren't related to the automobile class, then it's still gonna be secure. It's gonna be much more secure than rather having a public inval. Because we change this to public inval like this. Now all kinds of different classes or malware can access it, so just be careful. We'll just take that out for now. Actually, we could maybe change one of them. Where's val? Did I delete that? Okay, so let's just go back here. Let's just change, for example, the make to protected. Just to play with it a bit, so we'll just add protected here. Nothing should change. It says it can be made private. Well, yeah, so we're just going to go with that here. We're just going to leave it like that. Okay, so is Rider open on my other screen? Not yet. Oh, it is open. Okay, so that's fine. So let's go back to where we were before that. So the class has a parameterless constructor. So okay, so the car class has a parameter. Did I forget that? Sorry, let me just go back here. I don't see one. Unless this is a mistake in my docs here. Anyways, that's okay, so we'll just continue on with this. We can make it work. So the car class has a parameterless constructor that appears in... It's not even there. It appears in lines 7 to 10. Oh, sorry, that's right. Okay, so it is a parameterless constructor. But there is something in here. So I guess, okay, so never mind. That's correct. So the car class has a parameterless constructor. That's correct because there's no parameters in here. In the actual parameter area between the parentheses. Excuse me. So the constructor assigns the value 0, so we just set the doors to 0. We initialize the doors to 0. Okay, so here's a summary of what happens when an object of the car class is created. The base so when an object of the car class is instantiated, we're gonna pretend we're gonna instantiate an object here, maybe for example here. Let's go to this code file. So let's say for example that we have a car points a new car. Okay, so like that. So what's going to happen now? So the base class constructor executes first. That's the thing to remember. I know it's a little tricky. Once you memorize all these steps, it won't be that hard. So the base class constructor executes first. The thing is, the values, okay, so in this case, the automobile class's constructor is called. So we're going to go here. So car was, an object of car was instantiated. This car class, but since it inherits from automobile, we're going to go to the automobile class in that case. Okay, so now the automobile class constructor is called. So the base class constructor executes first. In this case, the automobile class's constructor is called, and it assigns empty strings to the make, model. So it assigns empty strings to the make and model fields, and 0 to the mileage and price fields. So pretty much the car class has access to these properties, but not directly, because except for the make, because it's accessible through protected. But for these model, mileage, and price underscore, for the backing fields, it's not going to have access to those directly, but indirectly through the automobile's methods, which are public, that can be accessed. Or sorry, through the properties, which can be accessed. Do you understand? So hopefully the viewers understand. I know it's a little bit tricky. Once you practice OOP concepts a lot, you'll get it down. So once you understand everything, and you just need to play around with it. The trick here is to play around with what you want to do. So you might not memorize everything in this exact moment, but when you try to do something later on, you'll be like, oh, okay, well, I can set something to protect it and access it through the child, and then I can, okay, well, then you want to say, okay, well, that's for make, but for model it's private, so I can't access it directly, but I can access the property model and change the properties values that way, or the property value that way. So if that makes sense, you can do that. So just try to play around with it until your error disappears. So just try different things. Okay, so what else is going to happen? So the derived, so after the base class constructor executes first, so back to this file here. So the base class constructor executes first. After the base class constructor executes, so after the base class constructor executes, the derived class constructor executes. So in that case, we'll go to the car class. So the car class then executes, whoops, wrong file. So the car constructor then executes, sets the backing field door, says 0. The doors property itself returns the underscore doors value, which is the backing field, and it sets, so any other, so when you want to set the doors property, it sets it to the value. So that's when you call the dot operator on, for example, some kind of object or something. Okay, so let's just continue on to now. I know that's quite a bit to start. So now we have the form, which we already talked about. Is that everything? Let me just check if that's everything. Okay, so now I'll do a complete app that demonstrates the automobile and car classes. So there's a few things that go with this. We'll start with this one. So back to this form. So back to this one with the form. So there's supposed to be a group here and a group here. So what this is supposed to say, so on the top group it's supposed to say enter car data, but I tried to do the group after and then it was blacking out everything else. So I just skipped it, so it's just supposed to say enter car data for its text property, and then there's another group down here that says object properties. And there's supposed to be other labels beside, so this one's supposed to say make over here. Model, mileage, price, doors. Same thing here. Okay, so same thing for the labels. Now let's finally do the code. So the getCarData method accepts a car object as an argument. It assigns the data entered by the user to the object's properties, so private void getCarData takes a parameter car object car, or just takes a car object. Okay, so we'll just define that here. Actually, first we're going to need that button. So here we'll just go down here. Keyboard would work. Okay, so we'll say create object button dot click plus equals new event handler. We'll say create object button underscore click. Under there we'll say, so underneath the constructor we'll say private void create object button underscore click, takes parameter object sender comma event args e. So now that event handler name and that parameter here should light up yellow. Okay, so we'll go down here to the private void getCarData method. Actually, so let's do that one down here. So let's put that one up here, I mean. So we'll say private void. So it's a private method. It returns void, so there's no return type. And we'll say getCarData. That's the method name, and then it takes a parameter. It takes a car object. Car is a parameter. So it could be any name for the object. Then here we'll have some fields. Actually, sorry, they're not fields, they're just going to be local variables to kind of just pass around the data. So here we'll have int mileage, decimal price, and int doors. Okay, so we'll have car.make. Whoops. Car.make points to make text box dot text. Car.model points to model text box dot text. Okay, now we'll have to use a try parse to pass the mileage because it's an int. We're going to try to pass the string as an int because we're going to get the car's mileage. Okay, so here we'll go with if int dot try parse, passing in mileage text box dot text, comma out. Oops, what happened there? Comma text, comma out, mileage. So then here, so what's going to happen, so we've discussed this before, we're going to try to pass the string, which is a mileage text box dot text, as an int. And if that, so this method returns true. If that's true, the value gets stored that we converted from a string to an int in the mileage variable, which we defined up here. And if this method's false, it returns -1, and this block gets skipped. Okay, so now we'll go down here to car.price. We're going to access the car object's price property, point it to the price, the data from the price local here. Did I name something wrong? Decimal price. What's happening with that? Out. No, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong thing here. Oh no, I messed this thing up completely. Sorry. There's two try parses that are nested, so let's just do that again. So if int.tryparse, to here we'll pass in mileage textbox.text, and here we'll say out mileage, or open a block, and here we'll say car.mileage points to mileage. We'll say if decimal.tryparse. Okay, so yeah, so now we'll have our nested tryparse. So this was the outer tryparse, now we'll have the inner tryparse. So if decimal.tryparse, passing in price textbox.text. So if decimal.tryparse, then here we'll pass in price textbox.text, comma, out price. We'll say car.price points to price. That should work now. Okay. Then here we'll have an if statement. We'll get the number of doors, so then we'll have another tryparse. So if int.tryparse, passing in doors text box text, comma, outdoors. Oops, sorry, lowercase doors. Then here we'll open an if, then here we'll say car.doors property. So the car's object's doors property points to the doors local variable. Then underneath this if we'll have an else. We'll show that if well, basically we're going to say if the if above the else returns, or it returns false. If that condition returns false, the if block will get skipped. We'll move to the else. In that case, we'll show an error. So then we'll say messagebox.show error invalid doors. Okay, so underneath that, now I'll go to this if up here. You can see how it highlighted yellow, I think. If I step away from that, it should unhighlight. So you notice how this block's highlighted when I go down here. Hopefully you can see that. And when I go down here to this bracket here, this one should light up yellow. Now it's telling us that it's matching that if. So go underneath there, I'll type else, I'll open a block. Then here we'll say message box, because that's going to be also another error. So we'll say messagebox.show to show an error message. Then here we'll say invalid. Or sorry, what did we say before? Error, comma, invalid. I think I messed this one up here. Okay, let's see. So here invalid doors. Then underneath we have else. Okay. Error, invalid price. Then underneath that one, we have this one, which is telling us that it's matching. Might have to zoom out here. That's matching this one here. So we have a bunch of nests here. 1, 2, 3 ifs. We did the inner ifs else, the second inner ifs else, and now we'll do the outer ifs else. Matching with that, it's lighting up yellow. Zoom back in here. Underneath, open an else block. We'll say messagebox.show. Oh, so many indentations there. Messagebox.show here we'll just say another error message. There should be a string invalid. oh sorry, we said error, comma, invalid mileage, like that, in a string. So that one should be done. That's going to, so this method's done. This is the get car data. The get car data gets the car data from the text box. When we go to this, so when this app runs, you enter data into the text boxes on the app. Then it stores the data in these variables from the text boxes. So here it points make to the text box. So it points to the car objects make property. Sorry, the car objects make property points to the make text box. Now the car objects model property points to the model text box. Now we have this try parse, which is going to convert basically everything to ints and decimals, because these were strings. The only thing that wasn't a string was doors. Not sure why we have 3 though, mileage, price, and doors. I don't think we needed to do the other one, unless I messed something up. Yeah, so it's int mileage, decimal, doors, int doors. Okay, so I guess when they enter it, it's going to be a string. In that case, yeah, I guess it would, because it's a text box. So that's why we had 3 try parses here. But then, okay, the car's make is going to be string, string. Okay, so string. Okay, so how many things we have? Make, model, mileage, and price. Mileage, price, and doors. Okay, so there's an extra one, doors. That's probably why. How many properties we have in total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. With the inherited, well, including all the inherited properties and all that. And how many text boxes do we have? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're adding all the properties from all the inherited classes are going to be grabbed from these text boxes here. So mileage, price are ints, so we can just get those directly. So we can't get those directly because they're coming from a text box. In that case, we'll have to convert them. These strings, make and model, those are strings. We can get those directly. That's why they're just pointed to the text boxes like that. The the car objects make property is a string, so it can just point directly to the string to the text box, which contains a string. So they can just point to each other. There's no need to do the try parse because one's a number and one's a string. Okay, so then now we have, so once you have these two, then we have the mileage text box, which is a string. So we're trying to pass the string as an int. Then we're trying to pass, so mileage, price, and doors are all ints, whereas the make and model are strings. So doors is an int. Mileage and price are numbers, int, decimal, and then we have 2 strings. So that should be correct. That's why we have 1, 2, 3 try parse blocks. So we're trying to convert the strings to an int. So we're converting the mileage string to an int, the price string to an int, and the doors string to an int because they're coming from text boxes. So when you enter something into a text box, the type automatically is a string. Then we're showing the errors if you enter, for example, the wrong data type or something like that. then in that case, all the data is stored in our, pretty much just in the, we're storing them in the properties through the car property. We're storing the data pretty much in the, because notice here we say, okay, well after it's converted, then we're saying, okay, well the car.mileage. The car's mileage property is going to point to the local mileage. So all the car's properties get set here. So it kind of gets car data and sets car data as well. It's not just exactly getting, it's also setting. Okay, so now we'll go to the create object button. So when we click this button, what's going to happen? Remember, a button, so an event handler waits and listens for an event to occur. When the event occurs, in this case a button click, then a response. So what do we want it to do when it responds? In this case, we're going to say that we want to define a car object. Have we defined a car object yet? No, we have. I don't think we have. We did here. I think this was just an example. Let me just go back up here. Yeah, so this is just an example. We'll just take this stuff out. Okay, so now we're back in the event handler. So here we're going to say that we want to instantiate a car object to start. So here we'll just say car, car points a new car. So just pretty much just a normal object instantiation. Let's go to our car class. So remember there's no parameters here. So remember the base class's constructor is going to execute first. It's going to set all this data to empty strings. So it sets this make and model to an empty string. So it sets the make and model to an empty string. It sets the mileage and price to 0. It sets the doors to 0. Okay, so then in that case, remember we have a method here as well called get car data, or get, basically it gets and sets the car data, but it takes an object. So remember, we haven't instantiated any objects until this point. The one that we instantiated here was just an example, so I deleted it. Okay, so now down here, we instantiated this object. Now we're going to call this class, get car data, and pass it a car object. In that case, the car's properties will all get set because we're passing in the object to set everything. So here we're going to say get car data and pass it car as an argument. Then we're going to display the car data, so we'll just set the text boxes here, or sorry, the labels in this form. So we'll say that we want to say make label dot text points to car dot make. Then we'll say model label dot text points to the car dot model. And then we'll say the mileage label dot text property. So the mileage label's text property points to the car dot mileage dot toString. Why are we casting it to a string? We're casting it to a string because the mileage label dot text property. So remember the car dot mileage property properties are accessible publicly, so the car's mileage property is an int. So the data is being stored in a number format, a whole number format. In this case, we can't set the mileage label directly to a number because the mileage label has a string. It's a type of a string. So you have to convert the type. We're converting the number type to a string so it can be stored in the label. Okay, so in this part we'll go down to the next part here. So mileage label.text, and then here we'll say price label.text. Points to the car dot. We're going to convert all the numbers here again. So price dot toString. For the next one here, we'll say doors label dot text points to the car objects doors property dot toString. That should be everything. There's an exit button which we just skipped over. So now that's pretty much everything. I'm just going to run the app. So let's go to. You won't be able to see it, so I'm just going to go to this form here. I'll describe you what I'm going to type. Okay, so I'm just going to save it and run it. Let me just go back to, because I'm missing some of the labels, so I'm just going to describe what those labels are. Okay, so I'll go here. I'll just say that the make is a Pontiac. Then here we'll say that the model is I don't know. We'll just say that it's a Firebird. And we'll say that the mileage is really low. And here we'll say that the price is something crazy. And then here we'll say that the doors are 2. And now we'll just create the object. There we go. So we got all the objects data was shown. So Pontiac. So remember the objects data was stored as a property. So we have Pontiac, Firebird, 2000, some crazy number, and 2, and the doors are 2. So that's pretty much the end of the tutorial. So thanks for watching, guys. If you guys like the video, you can like and subscribe to support the channel for more programming and investing tutorials. So the rest of the videos will be in the csharp.net playlist on my channel. And the next video will actually be continuing with this class and doing 2 more derived classes for another pop-up kind of app. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Thanks.